Heart Talk Between Sisters radio broadcast. Tune in to a heartwarming and enlightening radio experience like no other. Join us on a journey of love, laughter, and lifelong connections as we explore the unique bond between sisters. Our broadcast is a celebration of sisterhood, offering a safe space for candid conversations, shared memories, and inspiring stories that touch the soul. Whether you're a sister yourself or simply appreciate the beauty of this extraordinary relationship, this broadcast is for you. Discover the secrets of sisterly love, support, and understanding as we delve into personal experiences and heart-to-heart conversations that will make you smile, cry, and reflect. So, grab your favorite cup of tea, get cozy, and let our Heart Talk Between Sisters broadcast warm your heart and lift your spirits. Join us every week for an emotional journey filled with wisdom, connection, and the enduring power of sisterly bonds.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, all the listeners, Amazons, and the he for she out there. It's another beautiful Friday, and the last Friday of the month of November, and is another section of our Heart Talk Between Sisters. And this afternoon is a beautiful one. I keep saying it's a global platform where we come together to talk about issues, it's women and the conversation. This beautiful afternoon, I have a sister all the way in Angola. So we are connecting Abuja, Nigeria to Angola and with the studio in Trinidad and Tobago. So that's one of the beauty of the Heart Talk Between Sisters is across the globe. And this afternoon, I have someone so beautiful, inside out, Dr. Enolia Foti. She's currently in Angola right now, but she has so much to share with us this afternoon. Like I always say to you sisters out there and Amazons, get your pen and paper ready. Because Heart Talk Between Sisters is not just where we come and have conversation. It's where we talk about real life issues and profile solutions to those issues that affect us on our daily basis and our lifestyle. Dr. Enolia is an award-winning keynote speaker, author, global influencer, and a life coach. She has dedicated to youth advocacy, women empowerment, and contributing to Africa. Right now, I don't want to talk so much about her, but I'm so interested in the fact that Enolia is a respected grandmother, elder, and a doctor of a modern-day medicine woman. So I love that aspect. Growing up, I used to watch a movie called Medicine Woman. It's an old movie. And this afternoon, I have a modern-day medicine woman live in the studio with us. Thank you so much. Good afternoon and welcome to the Heart Talk Between Sisters, Dr. Enolia. We'd like to get to know you a little bit better from your point of view. Thank you.
Thank you, Zanib, and it's so wonderful to be here. What an exciting time to be present and to be. I'm really honored to be on your show, and yes, my background spans quite a bit of different things. And so you asked me about being a medicine woman and what that means. And I will share with you that that is not the path that I thought I would start out on. It is unbelievable to just start something and end up somewhere else. So, yes.
Okay, let's start at the beginning. I know a little bit of your history, so let's start where you're comfortable and bring it all up into where you get to being the medicine woman after the fact. Let's start at the beginning of your journey. That's an exciting part of your journey, and let's bring it all up into that area where Dr. Ambassador Madden wants to take you there. Yeah.
Okay. So I guess I would start with the fact that I just, I was born and raised in New York. New York City, Queens girl, this little girl coming up in Queens and learning the city ways. I just had no idea that my life would take so many different turns that it did. I went to University of Massachusetts in Amherst. I was a mathematics major, graduated from there, and started my career eventually with Corning Incorporated, where I was an IT project manager, and I was just doing the standard things that everybody else does, right? We go to school, we get married, we try to find that corporate career, we try to advance through leadership. And it was during that time that I realized that corporate wasn't for me. Corporate was not for me. And the sheer stress, the sheer manipulation that was taking place, the sheer trying to navigate through, I finally came to a precipice where I said, there's got to be another way. There's got to be another way to live. And, you know, we all reach a point in time in our lives when we go, how did I get here? What did I do? How did I even end up in this space? And for me, when that took place, what I did was that I started looking for somebody else to teach me. My mother had passed away early. My father had passed away early. You know, here I was, married, 2 kids, entering 20 of the marriage, and dissatisfied with my career. And I met my first indigenous grandmother. She was Ojibwe, and I met her at a gathering and a conference that I had been given from my ex-husband my husband at the time, my ex-husband now, and the kids called the 13 Indigenous Grandmothers. And what that was these Indigenous grandmothers who gathered, and we say grandmother, but grandmother is an affectionate term meaning medicine woman. So these 13 medicine women came together, and so they attracted what? Medicine people, medicine men, medicine women, all across the world, descended upon Omega Center in New York. And there I was, front and center, watching these women do ceremonies. And when I watched this woman, what really impacted me, the 4'5" or 4'8" grandmother from Tibet, she did ceremony, and I was like 150 feet away, and I could feel it as if she was doing it right over me. I mean, the power that this woman commanded, this tiny woman. And I recognized, I had done enough studies to recognize that she was calling the different names of creator to create this energy, and you could feel it across the field. And I was like, there's so much more to this than I understand. There's so much more. So I made it at that moment my duty to I was going to find a grandmother to teach me before I left this conference. And I did. And her name was Grandmother Isabel Mawasaki of the Ojibwe, living in northern Canada. And I saw her and I spied her because the 13 women who were front and center, one of them recognized her in the audience. When they recognized her in the audience, I was like, aha, that's somebody I can approach, because the other ones were so popular and everybody was going for them. So I decided I was going to go for one off. And I approached her. She gave me her card, and I didn't know what to ask her or how to ask her to teach me. So I basically said, will you teach me herbalism or poultices or anything like that? And she's like, well, my girl, if you're really serious about wanting to be taught, here's my card. Okay. And basically come up and see me sometime. And so I was like, don't give me your card, because I will come. And so 2 months later, I took the trek, which was about, 22-hour drive, northern Canada. And I met this woman for the weekend, and we got along, and she's like, okay, if you really want me to teach you, I'm holding a retreat next year. Why don't you help organize the retreat and bring some women? And I was like, no problem. I'm corporate, I'm a project manager, I can handle that. I helped them organize their first retreat, my first retreat in attendance, and I brought 22 women. because I was going to get taught. And when I brought those 22 women in, I came a couple of weeks early so that I could spend time with her. And I actually wrote a book about this. And I called Finding My Sovereign Voice with My Grandmother Elder. And I wrote about the time that this woman taught me, the time that I experienced my first, the 7 directions opened, the time that I spent, you know, putting my foot in my mouth thinking that, oh, I can just do this. I can do what anybody else can do, and mimicking her and opening up the directions and going, oh crap, I opened up something I couldn't handle, and being petrified of what I did. So that experience in and of itself changed the course of my life. And then I won't spend too much time because I know you want to ask questions, but I will just say that she initiated, spending time with her initiated a change in my life such that medicine men and medicine women started recognizing me and pulling me in and teaching me. Whether I was seeking it or not, they saw something in me. And it ended up being from Ojibwe to Lakota, Lakota to Hopi, Hopi to Apache, Apache to New Zealand, the Wayataha I spent time with, the Quiros Indians of Peru, the Mapuche in Chile. I was initiated by the Ovimbundu here in Angola. I spent time with the Sangomas in South Africa. So it opened up this plethora of indigenous teachings. I spent time in the Amazon also. And it changed the course of my life. It changed my outlook with everything, everything. And so when I teach, when I work, whatever I approach, it has that foundation of the beautiful grandmothers and grandfathers or medicine men and medicine women I've met all over this world with deepest and greatest respect.
Wow.
And then to come full circle, the grandmother I met eventually ended up initiating me as a grandmother, as her peer.
Wow.
That is so beautiful. You know, sometimes it's so nice listening to someone else telling their story. Life is the process, and I keep telling people that. I remember some 20-something years ago, we used to leave London in schools, and we were trying to find our purpose on earth. We used to go to up the mountain in Arizona, do a drive with the greyhounds and all that. Oh, and when you're talking, just keep coming back, because those were the things we're trying to explore. But I'm glad you were not scared. You stick behind, and you are here today to tell me we got scared at a point because science, nature were coming together, and the energy was very powerful. So one of the things we did was just run and run and run. But of course, coming to today with the technology and all that, we're still trying to get into herbal medicine because it's the easiest and the quickest way to heal properly. But I'm so glad you didn't run away like we did some years back, because I'm going to learn a lot from you now. And I'm glad I still have 1 or 2 contacts of the people who were trying to get that done back then. But, you know, youthful exuberance were running. But it's beautiful to hear your story. One of the things I keep telling people about tradition and culture is, I'm an African woman. Of course, you're an African woman. I know Dr.
Yes.
Clarence is an African man too. But the culture defines who we are. I was telling someone, I had this conversation with some group of actors and actresses recently, and I told them, I said, one of the things I like is the storytelling. Africa is about storytelling, because we used to have what is called Tales by Moonlight, where it's grandmothers, grandfathers would tell you stories, and there are live teaching programs when you follow those stories to latter. So at every given stage in your life as an African person, your story is a storytelling process. And I love your experience. And I'm so glad I'm actually connecting with you. Thank you, Dr. Claire Green, for making this connection work, because we're going to do a lot more with my sister, Grandma Enola.
Yeah,
Enolia,
thank you.
grandma. I think, yeah, you see, that's come with the culture and tradition. When you call someone grandma or auntie, you're giving that love and respect to that person,
Yes.
regardless of their age. Once you have to identify the person as auntie, you have big auntie, big mommy, grandma this, grandma that, and that's one of the beauty of culture. But as a modern day medicine woman in energy medicine, how do you cut across in trying to bring in some the learning process into the new age we are, the technology age we are? We need to know that, because I'm in Nigeria, you are in Angola, and I need to learn more. So how are we going to do that?
So I love that question because whether you know it or not, it's a very, very deep question. So I
Mm,
take all of those years that I learned from each of the different grandmothers and grandfathers, and I pull together something through those teachings called the 7 principles of self-mastery, right?
mm-hmm,
Everything that we need, we already possess. We already possess. And one of the things that we have always been taught, no matter what culture you are in, is we are taught through schools and everything from inside to look outside for the answers. We are taught to look outside for the answers, to go to other people for the answers, to find others for the answers. And what my program and what I've learned from these indigenous elders is that everything that we need to know is within us. It's within us. It is not external to us. So how do I look at the power of my words? How do I look at how I define fear? How do I look at judgment and when it's placed on me and how I respond to it? How do I look at forgiveness and how powerful of a tool is it really? How do I look at my limited belief system? How do I look at how I hold my power and what is powerful? Right? We're taught hierarchy. And in the indigenous way of where I've traversed, I sit in circle. I don't sit in hierarchy. There's no one above me and there's no one below me. There's no one in front of me. There's no one behind me. Everything I say and do is in circle. It is of value, just as of value, no matter who I am sitting next to and what title they have. So how I've learned to bring my programs forward is I do it independent of cultural upbringing, because I work on your heart, how you think, how you determine the decisions that you make, how you process judgment, how do you define fear, how do you determine standing in your power and standing in your truth. What do you notice? What aspect is leading your life? Is it your most courageous person or your most insecure person or your conditioned little girl or little boy? What are the stories that we keep? Are we stuck in our own story? All these things are culturally independent, tradition independent. And this is how we get to the heart. We have to navigate the ego and the conditioning and the limited beliefs and the fear. And we have to focus inward, and we have to see first and foremost, no matter what, our own worthiness. Because once we understand that we are energy beings having a human experience, and that human experience, just like clothes, are learned and acquired, that energy being will shine through no matter what tradition, what culture that you are experiencing or coming up as. Then you see the light and the gravity of the power that you bring.
My, do you know what? I don't know if I'm just a student this afternoon learning some processes, or I'm a host. But you know what? There's a beauty in having such conversation, and that is why it's called Women and the Conversation. I'm just picking out conscious mindset. How do I look at fear? How do I look at forgiveness? And how do I look at power? So we are in the season of the 16 days of advocating, creating awareness, discussing about the sexual gender-based violence. But I need to pick this question, and I'm going to throw it back at you because I know the listeners and those who will be listening to the recorded version of this will key into that aspect. How do you define fear? I love that question. And I'm asking you that question. How do you define fear? That's one. Then I picked on the condition as a little girl because sometimes you're growing up, everybody keeps saying, oh, you're pretty, you're this, you're my angel, you're my this. And then there's on the other end someone like, you're such an ugly girl, you're such a naughty girl. And those are things, that conditions that you start growing up with subconsciously. So I need us to talk. I'm going to ask you, how do you define fear? Because that's the question you are going to answer for millions of women who are going through
Yes. Yeah.
one stage or the other in their lifetime at the moment. So that answer will help a lot of women to heal.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah.
So I define fear as you have a bubble, all right? And for those of you who can't see, a bubble would be like you have a circle, and you are in the center of that circle. And as long as you are within the boundaries of that circle, everything's comfortable. Everything is easy. Everything works. But as soon as you go beyond that boundary where it's uncomfortable, then you're in fear. Period. And what happens is that we confuse, some people will actually say there's healthy fears. There's no such thing as a healthy fear. There's not healthy fears. And I want to clarify that with survival. Okay? Now, people will say, well, I have to be a fear because I have to survive. Let's clarify what that means. Survival is when you are navigating a circumstance or you have to make a decision to get out of a dangerous circumstance. But when you are in fear and the emotion of fear comes up in your survival, what happens to you? You are paralyzed. You cannot move. So what happens when you're in survival mode? You have to get over your own fear in order to navigate even a dangerous situation. So where is fear healthy if it's paralyzing you from thinking, from moving, from navigating? So when we are in our bubble and we're comfortable, we are not in fear. But as soon as we surpass the comfort zone of what we know, that's where I determine that outside of that circle is fear. And we just have to be able to take a look at our fears. Why did they come to fruition? Were they learned? And how did they come to be? Because really, when we came into this earth, when we were born, we had no fears. Fears are learned. Fears are attracted. Fears are situations. Fear is an emotion. And what happens is that because, especially women, not men do it too, but especially women, we tend to wear our emotions on our sleeve. We tend to lead with our emotions. But I think that how you heal this, how you navigate this, is you learn to be the observer instead of the person that's always leading with their emotions. Because when you observe, what happens when you observe? If you're in a movie and you're watching the movie You're going to fall into two categories. You're going to be in the movie, and then what's happening to the main character is like it's happening to you, and you're crying, and you're feeling, and you're like, fight, 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 or whatever the case may be. You're in it, right? And your emotion is leading you through even the story of the movie. But when you're the observer and you're watching things unfold, and you come to a point when it's unfolding, you go, okay, there's my opportunity. There's where I can navigate past it. Or there's my opportunity. There's where I can stop, halt, and not even engage in it. But what happens is that when we're in our emotion, we're so flustered, we're distracted from observing. And when we're distracted from observing, we can't think. And if we can't think, we can't make good decisions, can we? So that's fear. And then I'm going to take it back to that little girl, right? We all have a plethora of personalities. There's a personality that when we're courageous and we're happy and we've met the best of the best situation and we're proud of ourselves, the part of our personality that comes to fruition is that courageous woman, that happy woman, that person that is happy with themselves. But when we're in fear, a different aspect shows up. And depending on the situation, that could be your insecure person, that could be your angry person, that could be your little girl, depending on your cultural upbringing and the trauma that you faced. And when that aspect is leading, when that aspect of your personality is in charge of your life most of the time, then you got issues. Because that aspect is used to being in fear. That aspect is used to hiding when something takes place. That part of your personality, if it's leading your life most of the time, is attracting where it's coming from. And if it's coming from a place of fear, guess what you're attracting? So what we need to realize is that we can make a choice in terms of what aspect of our personality leads us through life and navigates life. Our most fearful part of us does not have to navigate life. Our courageous woman or our courageous man can navigate. So these are important aspects, and these are the things that I teach. Now, it doesn't happen overnight. The first thing you have to do is you have to notice what aspect leads your life. You have to notice why you're not happy in life. You have to notice what situation you've attracted or what situation you afforded yourself to be in based on what aspect of your personality is leading. Because your more courageous person is going to navigate and say, I need to get out of here. And they're going to find the courage to move or to leave. But your insecure woman's not. Your insecure woman's going to go, this is how I survive it. I just have to be quiet right here. I just have to take this right now. Well, he's angry. I can't say anything right now. I know how to work around him. I'll just work around him. So we learn those patterns and those conditions over a long period of our lives. And people want answers overnight. And I'm here to subscribe to you that it takes a long period of time to unlearn those habits so that you can get out of the situation and you can make these tools that I've talked about your life tools. They're not something you learn and then you walk away from them. You learn them for life. I've learned in my own situation that when my insecure woman is leading me, I'm attracting what? Why am I attracting this? Oh, no. Insecure woman, get to the back. I need my courageous woman right now. Let me step up and speak for myself. Or let me not get emotional, not break down in tears, but watch. And when they leave, I'm out. And when they look up, I've moved. And I'm not afraid to take the risk or that step to walk away.
That's so beautiful, sis. You know, I'm listening to you And I'm so glad the studio just gave us let's keep talking, because it's a beautiful section we're having, and we're gonna have a part two. Just get to know that, because I think our part two we're just going to concentrate on insecure women and the courageous women. So just take note of that. We're going to discuss that at length on another one whole hour, because I have learned from a very young age. I got married at an early age, at 19, and at 25, I was going through a messy divorce, far away from my family, and it was not funny. It was not funny, because you were growing up, you were reading Mills and Bones, you were thinking marriage is a bed of roses, marriage is this, marriage is that. And then when you move into that arena of what is called marriage, it becomes a whole different ballgame. And sometimes you get to lose yourself in between. And when we talk about stuck in our own story or stuck in the story of the culture and tradition, you are stuck in between, wanting to respect the culture and tradition, and you are losing yourself. But, I talk about, you just define what I went through. How do you define fear? At that moment, I was stalked, and this is what I did. And I keep telling that, and I used that to do counseling, because I did counseling as one of my major subjects. And I said to myself, standing in the front of a mirror in the bathroom, and I was like, okay, so you were in a plane, you had a plane crashed, and you were lucky to fall into a deep ocean, and there were sharks, there were alligators, there were all those things that could consume you in a sec. What would you do? Do you want to survive, or do you want to just be there sympathizing with yourself, pitying yourself, crying, why me, and then get eaten up by all these wild animals? Or you become a courageous woman, you bust the bubble, climb on top of those stupid animals and get to a shore, an island, and survive. And that was my survival instinct. And I think when you talk about how do you define fear, all the explanation you did just defined what I went through some 20 years ago. But that has molded me into who I am and given me that experience to be able to counsel other women or young women and girls going through similar situations of life where they're at a crossroad. I love the analysis of the bubble. How do you break the bubble? So I need our listeners who are going through this at the moment. When we keep talking about survivor, I love the aspect of the word nothing like a healthy fear. There's nothing like a healthy fear. Fear is fear. You either hit on with it and deal with it, or you get swallowed in it. But that come back to that conscious mindset. You need to be mentally prepared at all times. And I keep saying to everyone that you have to be intentional, psychologically, physically, mentally. You have to be intentional about addressing real life issues. And I'm glad we're having conversation like this, because I keep getting feedback every Friday. Oh, that was a very beautiful. We had a life pain to purpose conversation last week. And this conversation we're having right now is so beautiful. I don't do meditation as much, but I do what is called me time. And me time is I juggle so many things at the same time. So when I decide to have a me time is I shut down completely. I go into a retreat, either in a hotel or at home. You shut down. Phones goes off, everything goes off. I love old school music. So I go into blues, I go into that and sing to it. And then I come back rejuvenated. So a lot of people keep saying, oh, we don't have the time to do that. We don't have the time. But you have to be intentional about trying to, because this is about mental health. I need us to talk more about the insecure woman. How do an insecure woman identify or knows her trigger?
So
we need to address that. We need to know so that the women who are listening know that, oh, because I'm insecure, because I'm going through these phases, those are some of the triggers, or those are some of the signs that something is not right. And I need to be in a positive mindset. Thank you,
Yeah.
Sue. Yeah.
Yes, I would say to recognize whether it's insecure woman or whether it's any woman, any aspect of it. Jealous woman is just as bad as insecure woman. And goodness knows, here in Africa, we have to own that. We are jealous and insecure and etc. So the first thing I would say is you come to a term called notice. You notice what's taking place. What is noticing? I'm going to give you an analogy. Noticing is akin to taking your shoes off. When you take your shoes off and you're walking barefoot, you're walking very carefully, right? Because you don't want a shard or glass or something to hurt your foot, right? So you're very conscious of every step that you take because what? You don't want to get hurt, right? But as soon as you put your shoes back on, you're not thinking twice about where you walk. You're not worried about what you're stepping on. You're not worried about whether it's sharp or anything because, oh, I have coating. You know, I have the sole of a shoe that will protect my foot. Well, when I tell you to notice, I'm telling you to notice like you would be walking barefoot. Notice how you make decisions. Notice if you're in the story or stuck in the story and repeating the same thing over and over and over again, and you can't get out of the story. Notice if your emotions lead you and you're always emotional and everything's like a roller coaster. Or I just gave you the analogy of the movie. Notice if you're in the movie. You need to notice how you make decisions. Do you pause when you make a decision, or do you just make the decision and it's so automatic and so much in pattern that you don't pause to make the decision? Because if you notice when to pause before you make a decision, then you can notice whether you're always going to the right instead of to the left. Because life doesn't change if you're always going the same direction. You have to notice the patterns that you're in. Because making a different decision gives you a different outcome. If your life is always a certain way, you're making the same decisions all the time. You have to notice your patterns. You have to notice if you speak all the time, are you speaking negatively or are you speaking positively? Does negativity fill your day? Or does positive speak fill your day? Notice. Notice is akin to walking barefoot. Noticing is akin to starting to be conscious of how you move through this world. And until you're conscious of how you move through this world, you can't shift it because you're in a pattern. And you can't break the pattern until you notice it. So that's how I would caveat it. You have to notice what personality leads your part of your life also. So if you're insecure all the time, then you're allowing insecure women to lead your life. Call on your courageous woman. That's something you can control. You can control what aspect chooses to lead your life of your own personality. You can choose consciously to say, you know what? Being insecure right now isn't serving me. Or you know what? Being jealous right now isn't serving me. I'm not getting what I want. Why am I jealous? What makes me think that I don't have a standard that's good enough or enough, or that I'm not worthy enough to be at par with what I'm jealous over? Notice. And I'll leave it at that, Zanab.
Got a text message. Is it possible for your guest today to be invited sometime to Nigeria next year? That's one. Then the second one is asking me, I love it when she said, you have to pause before you make a decision. But, Ambassador Zainab, my husband makes all the decision. He won't let me work. We have 2 children. I can't even decide what to buy for our children except he says so. Then my fear, and I have fears, is him and his family always make the decision in our home. We've been married for 5 years and I'm choking. I'm a graduate of biology from the University of Abuja. No, from the University of ABU Zaria. But I can't think for myself anymore. I'm losing my mind. How do I deal with this? That's the question from a sister. Is a text message to my phone. My husband makes all the decision. He won't let me work. We have 2 children. We've been married for 5 years. I'm losing my mind. I'm a graduate. He makes decision with his family. What do I do? And how do I approach it?
The first thing that I would say to that person is, number one, thank you, because I understand that her situation is cultural. It is not a one size fits all. And this is the appreciation that I get from living in Angola. Because Western people will come and say, oh, well, you have to do this, this, and this, like it's easy. It is not easy. She's in fear. And every decision that she's making and every movement that she's making is out of fear. And she needs to come to the place of love. Come to that place of love and share with her husband, you know, I've been thinking, and take a baby step. Take it all the way down to something where he's making the decision for you and you want to assert that you would like to make that decision. But it can start off small. See, we're in the bubble, and the bubble of comfort is he makes all the decisions. That uncomfortable place is the first time that you ask to say, I need to make this decision. And then he's going to go, well, I'm going to make it for you. But how will our children ever know how to make a good decision if they don't see the example on both sides? Don't you want to empower your children? Don't you want to empower and have them not be dependent upon others to make decisions for them? Well, it starts at home. Honey, let me just start off with the meal. Let me make the decision and surprise you once, surprise you twice. I would do it in small gestures, because what you're doing is you're dealing with the limited belief of culture of where a place a woman should be. And going against the system full blown is not going to serve you. But you have to find that part of you that isn't afraid to gently push back little by little by little. Take apart the decisions that you can make that really shouldn't make a difference who makes them. And engage to assist in making this. Honey, let me take care of this one this time. I got this. Let me just give it a try. I know, but you're so busy. This is how I can relieve your stress. It's not going head to head with the person, but to engage them little by little, because sometimes we have to do it. We have to take an inch and not a mile to shift it. But it starts within you. And I know that you're operating in fear, because you're losing your mind and you're afraid to say anything, because everything is being expressed for you. And I am married to an Angolan man. And every once in a while, because we have an open relationship, I'm able to say this to him. If you are making all of the decisions, because he's the elder of his family, for your sisters, then how will you expect them to ever make good decisions? If you don't like her decision, you know what? That's your fault, because you never gave her the opportunity to make the mistake and make a decision. Let her make that decision herself. So, and then the other piece of this is that sometimes sometimes it's lost. And I hate to say this because culture is so strong, but the key here is if you can't impact yourself, you can possibly impact your daughter. How will you choose to change it from the next generation so that your daughter doesn't face the same thing? So that's how I would address that right now. If you were in like one of my programs, because I teach a master class, I do teach a master class, I would hold your hand through it and you would take baby steps, baby steps, little by little by little, because we love the people that we're with, but in the African culture, specifically in the African culture, the Indian culture, the Asian culture, potentially, we are defined by the roles that we played. We are defined by what tradition deems us as worthy to the other person. We are not just born like in the Western world where it's just like, oh, girl, and she wants to do this, this, and this, and she pushes back and she says, I'm going to do what I want to do and just demands it. No, because you have a whole complete family unit against that whole role, the ideology of how they perceive you. But again, it starts inside, not externally. It starts with you finding the courageous woman within you and taking baby steps.
I love that, finding the courageous woman in you and taking the baby step. That's beautiful. Sister Enolia, thank you so much. This afternoon is wow. And she just sent another message. How do I communicate this in a love setting? He loves me. He gets everything I want, but I'm really tired because I don't feel I'm a full potential woman or wife, because everything is about, it's going to come. I feel I'm scared he might even start dictating what I do, what I eat, what I drink. But I would love to take your baby steps with you.
Yes. So what I would say is, first of all, she has to be able to communicate, because if you're afraid to communicate, you've lost everything. Mm-hmm. You have to be able to communicate. And if he truly loves you, then you're going to have those moments where you both sit down and talk. And you have to define what love means to you. Love means to me not to be consumed by the other person. Yes, I want your care, but meet me halfway. If you want to make me happy, here are some of the things that I need that would define my happiness, and push back. So in taking care of me, you know what? I don't need this, and this materialistically, but what I do need, I need that when we come to a time and a decision needs to be made, that you would afford me the opportunity to make that decision. And that means that I don't consume you or try to control you for everything that you do, and you don't try to control me. Redefine what love means to you.
You know,
and share what that is. Go ahead.
You are talking about a very deep subject matter here, which
yes,
I think needs a second round on it. Last night, I had the distinct privilege to talk to a professional group of women, specifically dealing with the issues that you all are talking about right now.
Yes.
It's a very delicate issue between tradition and power and control, as it relates to the man, as it relates to the woman in a relationship. And it's borderline where it can go to another level and get to the point of abuse based on how you handle it. Because in the traditional man, especially the African man, there was a tradition that I lead my family and I make all the decisions. And depending on how strong he feels about that, resistance to that can end up in some very strange places for his spouse. And depending on how she treats with it, as you are saying rightly so, Dr. Enolia, that depending on if her taking baby steps and taking that control. In these 16 days of activism towards women, one of the subject matters is understanding, like I did last night, the mindset of the man.
Yes.
The mindset of the man, and the mindset of the man who exercise that kind of power and control and authority over you, all in love, but he's overstepping. And it's borderline in a place where, like you said, there's a saying I say, I'm loving you to death. Not necessarily killing you physically, but I'm killing everything that you are as a woman.
Yes.
And the other aspect of it is how do we change the dynamics in the relationship and empower her, but still maintaining the respect and maintaining the respect for tradition and all of that, but gradually moving him away, not completely west, but gradually letting him know, I'm not usurping your power. I'm adding to it. I'm adding to it. I'm here with you. I want to be a part of this so that I can lighten the burden of you. You still have the last say, man. You still has the control. You still has the authority as my man, as my husband. But I am your helpmeet. How does the helpmeet help without offending the culture and the authority of tradition and everything else? And it's a beautiful conversation that I think we should really find another time to continue in this vein, in the 16 days of activism. It's powerful.
I love it. I love it. And I just want to say one thing. You know, we have this fantasy of what a relationship should be. And one of the things that women who are not married should understand that the relationship is predicated on two major components: love and freedom. Too much freedom and you don't feel loved. Too little freedom and you feel overwhelmed and consumed. Too much love and you feel, oh my God, it's too much. You feel smothered. Too little love, you're not loving me enough. We have this idea that marriage is about consuming the other person, but marriage is supposed to be about meeting each other halfway. Two different people, two different backgrounds, meeting halfway and balancing what is and isn't and what should be. Now, traditions usurp all of that, but it doesn't mean that we can't take the time to think about the components of what make up a marriage and understand that as the generations grow, that they have this wisdom, not knowledge, but wisdom of understanding, of defining the relationship, and that they are strong enough that if they can't come into a balanced relationship and they have the opportunity to say no, then don't do it. But we're still in the world of arranged marriages. We're still in the world of being, presentations and everything else, and deals that are made before you're even born sometimes. So in that respect, you tread lightly and you work with the next generation. But for every generation that comes, a shift can take place.
I like that. A shift can take place. Dr. Green, I love your interjection, and I'm so glad you did, because I was thinking same. We need to repeat this, and I said it about the insecure woman and a courageous woman. But I like the tone where you came in, the mindset of the man. And it's something that we have to have a conversation around, because the mindset of the African man, a traditionally African man, is quite, I go into the love and freedom. Too much freedoms, too much love, you feel smothered. And there's no, we need to find a balance. That's where we have to talk about this. We need to find a balance. And finding balance is, like my sister rightly said, redefine what love means to you. I know love is sacrifice. For me, love is sacrifice. So the freedom comes in. I give you your freedom, you give me my freedom. But one of the beauty of having a relationship is to be able to have that freedom of communication, to be able to talk to each other openly, without fear, to be able to have a good, deep conversation, a soul-searching conversation, so you get to understand each other better. Redefining what love means to you. I'm gonna stop on that because we just got 4 minutes to go. We can be on this section because it's a beautiful section. I just got a text message on my WhatsApp, one of our women platform, a lady asking, we need to have this section again. It's a healing section for me. Our guest today is doing amazingly well, talking about issues and proffering solutions. And that's what we do on the Heart Talk Between Sisters. We talk about life issues. We talk about conversations that change lives, change our home setting, change everything we do, and we proffer solutions to it. We'll keep coming with amazing guests like the sister on our show this afternoon, Dr. Enolia Foti,
yes.
who is a modern day medicine woman. I'm going to call you behind after the whole studio program. We're going to talk about that because my fear 20-something years ago made me run away from that whole process. The energy was too much, and I didn't understand what I was going into. I was reading so many scientific books, and it was not, I didn't have a proper guide like you did. You had a grandmother. And so if I had a grandma, then I think it would be fine. But now I found one in you, so I'll revisit that discussion. But before we logged off this afternoon, Heart Talk Between Two Sisters, we're building a stronger community where we can come up on a platform like this to talk about issues, to ensure that through the sisterhoods we are stronger. You are in Angola right now, and you are proffering solutions to so many things that happen. Because one of your sisters will tell you what hurts a lady can hurt you too. So when you take care of your sister's problem, or you hold a wrapper to her and protect her, you protect the whole community. I love Dr. Green talking about the mindset of the man. We'll delve into it. And I've told you, Dr. Green, I know you are in the studio there trying to make things work, but you're going to be one of our first he for she on our platform. And we'll talk about the mindset of the Black man. I think we'll make it a Black man because the African man thing is deep and deep and deep. But just before we log off this afternoon, Dr. Enolia, I need you to give us a key word that the ladies who have keyed in to listen to you this afternoon take homes with them and apply some of those solutions. Because we're in the 16 days of activism, talking about abuses in different forms, both mentally, physically, sexually, financially, emotionally, all the definition of abuse that can happen to a woman, our gender. So I need you to leave us with a strong word that every woman should go home and start having a thought process and applying it within their home and their community. Thank you.
I will leave you with this. It's not one word, but it's a saying. Dream a beautiful dream or you will be dreamt. If you don't hold a vision for yourself to make life a walk to, then you will end up living your life the way that everyone perceives you to be. And I'll leave it at that.
Powerful, powerful. Dr. Green, everyone in the studio, at the Trinidad and Tobago studio of the Heart Talk Between Two Sisters, I say thank you for providing us the enabling environment to keep talking to our sisters across the globe. Dr. Enolia, my sister, my grandma, thank you for being our special guest this afternoon. We look forward to seeing you all next week, Friday, and look forward to doing a part 2 with you, my darling sister. Thank you so much, and have a blessed day, everyone. God bless.
Thank you.
Join us in celebrating the power and strength of women in Nigeria and beyond, as we embark on a journey of heartwarming conversations and empowering stories on Heart Talk Between Sisters radio station. In honor of empowering women, we invite you to tune in and be inspired by the voices of sisters in Nigeria, across the African continent, and around the globe. From heartfelt discussions to motivational and thought-provoking debates, we're here to amplify the voices of women, celebrate their achievements, and foster sisterhood like never before. Don't miss out on this exciting celebration of womanhood and sisterhood. Tune in to Heart Talk Between Sisters radio station and join the movement to uplift, empower, and inspire. Together, let's make a difference, one conversation at a time.